The year is approximately 1025 BCE in the sun-scorched valley of Eila. Two armies face each other across a narrow ravine. What happens next will echo through millennia. But the real story is far stranger and more politically explosive than Sunday school ever taught you. Setup, more than meets the eye. Picture this: the Philistine war machine. Fresh from their technological revolution, stands poised to crush the fledgling Israelite kingdom. But here's the first twist that will make you question everything. This wasn't just another border skirmish. Archaeological evidence suggests the Philistines had recently acquired ironworking technology from the collapsing Hittite Empire, giving them a crushing military advantage in what was still largely a Bronze Age world. The Israelites, meanwhile, were desperately trying to transition from a loose confederation of tribes into a unified monarchy under their second king, Saul. The political pressure was immense. Saul's legitimacy hung by a thread, and a decisive military defeat would likely fragment Israel back into warring tribes, exactly what the Philistines wanted. The giant problem entered Goliath of Gath. Forget the Sunday school flannel board version. Recent scholarship places this warrior at approximately 6 and 9 inches tall, which in the ancient world made him not just unusually large, but practically superhuman. His armor alone weighed 125 pounds. And his spear point was nearly 15 pounds of iron, more metal than most Israelite families had ever seen in their entire lives. Here's where it gets interesting. Goliath wasn't just a soldier. He was a champion, a professional warrior in the ancient Near Eastern tradition of single combat. This practice, documented in Mesopotamian and Egyptian sources, was a way to settle disputes without massive casualties. Winner takes all, loser's army surrenders. It was legally binding warfare, and everyone knew the rules. But here's the kicker that historians love. Goliath's challenge wasn't random intimidation. It was a calculated psychological weapon. For 40 days, this ironclad giant strode into the valley and issued his challenge. Watching the Israelite army's morale crumble hour by hour, King Saul, who was himself described as head and shoulders above his people, couldn't match this monster. The political implications were devastating. The dark horse candidate now entered David, but this is where the plot thickens beyond recognition. The shepherd boy narrative obscures a fascinating historical reality. If it wasn't some random teenager who wandered into camp with lunch for his brothers, archaeological evidence and textual analysis suggest he was already a known warrior. Possibly a professional musician warrior in Saul's court, a common combination in ancient times. Here's the bombshell. David's selection of 5 smooth stones was unto the desperate grab of an amateur. It was the calculated choice of an expert slinger. Modern ballistics tests have proven that stones hurled from ancient slings could reach velocities of up to 100 miles per hour, equivalent to a .44 Magnum bullet. David wasn't bringing a toy to a gunfight. He was bringing a precision weapon that could crack skulls at 150 yards. The technology war. What makes this battle historically explosive is that it represents a clash between two military revolutions. The Philistines had iron weapons and heavy infantry tactics imported from the Aegean world. The Israelites were stuck with bronze weapons, but had perfected the ancient art of guerrilla warfare and ranged combat in the hill country. David's sling wasn't primitive technology, it was cutting-edge asymmetric warfare. While Goliath lumbered forward in 125 pounds of state-of-the-art armor, he was essentially a walking target for a weapon system he probably didn't even recognize as dangerous. Ancient slingers were so effective that they're mentioned in Egyptian and Assyrian military manuals as specialized troops. The moment of truth, the actual confrontation, lasted perhaps 30 seconds. But those 30 seconds changed the trajectory of 3 major world religions. David's stone struck Goliath in the forehead, the one vulnerable spot on his body not protected by armor. But here's what is historically fascinating. The Hebrew text suggests the stone didn't just knock him unconscious, it penetrated his skull. Medical experts who have analyzed the description believe Goliath may have suffered from a pituitary gland disorder called gigantism, which can cause vision problems and poor balance. If true, David's victory becomes even more remarkable. He identified and exploited a medical vulnerability that no one else had recognized. The aftermath, empire-changing consequences. The immediate aftermath reveals the true historical significance. The Philistine army didn't just retreat, they collapsed. This tells us that their entire strategy depended on Goliath's victory. When their champion fell, It triggered a complete psychological breakdown that allowed the Israelites to drive them back to their coastal strongholds. Here's the long-term historical earthquake. David's victory established him as a legitimate rival to King Saul. Within a generation, David would be king of Israel, and within a century, his descendants would rule an empire stretching from Egypt to the Euphrates River. The shepherd boy who killed a giant became the founder of a royal dynasty that lasted for centuries. The archaeological evidence, recent excavations in the Valley of Elah, have uncovered fascinating corroborating evidence. Archaeologists have found Philistine pottery shards, bronze weapons, and evidence of a massive military encampment dating to approximately the right period. Perhaps most intriguingly, the VA discovered numerous sling stones of the exact type David would have used, worn smooth by millennia in streambeds. The enduring mystery here is the final twist that keeps historians fascinated. We still don't fully understand how this story became one of the most influential narratives in human history. Within centuries, David and Goliath had become shorthand for impossible victories across multiple cultures. The Romans knew it, medieval chroniclers referenced it, and revolutionary armies from America to Afghanistan have claimed David's mantle. The battle in the Valley of Elah was not just a military engagement, it was the birth of an idea that would outlive empires. That a small, determined force with superior tactics and technology could defeat a seemingly invincible enemy. That courage and skill could triumph over size and intimidation. That sometimes, the underdog actually wins. And that's why, over 3,000 years later, we're still telling this story not just because it's inspiring, but because it's historically true. In a sun-scorched valley in ancient Palestine, a young warrior with a leather sling changed the world forever.